Welcome back to another video, everyone. My name is Kyle. I'm a full-time options trader and founder of Ophinicus Holdings, the premier options trading community. Wanted to make a video here showcasing about a dozen stocks that are poised for some upside moves. This is a little bit of a follow-up to the video that we had recorded and shared on April 3rd, talking about some of the challenges that we were seeing in the current market structure, pretty much across all stocks in relation to swing trading and actual duration trades, with everything pretty much being in a pretty severe downtrend. And now we are starting to see some stocks start to base out and show some signs of life, potential new market leaders, things to keep in mind, and just forward thinking about potential swing trade ideas. As a kind of recap, if you missed that video, basically the idea here is that we're talking about Wyckoff cycles. So you have accumulation, uptrend or markup, distribution, and then downtrend. Now this is the phase or the cycle that we have been in for pretty much the majority of this year so far. And we are starting to see a handful of names. I've identified about 10 or so starting to show signs of that accumulation. Now, if you're not familiar with Wyckoff, you may be familiar with Stan Weinstein. Pretty much the same concept. You have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. Pretty much the exact same thing that Wyckoff is talking about. This is just a way to look at big picture charts and try and stay on the side of the prevailing trend. And so the names that we have in focus today are largely, or pretty much 90% in the China ADR sectors. We also do have a handful of EV stocks that are showing signs of basing and potential moves into that kind of stage 2 we could see there, or that kind of uptrend or markup cycle. And so these are the type of things you want to be watching for early in the transition, when they are starting to go from stage 1 into stage 2, just so you can get positioned, kind of keep an eye on these things so you're not too late. So some of these stocks, they may have already started to move into their stage 2, or they may have just started to show signs of life and that initial transition into stage 2. This is not a recommendation to buy or sell any security. It's just to provide educational content surrounding stage analysis, Wyckoff cycle, and those various themes. Now, to jump right into this, I did want to start with BABA. This is one of the more popular China stocks out there, one of the more well-known China ADRs. And so this is definitely worth looking at. What we have here, basically exactly what we just talked about. You can kind of see this formation here, the accumulation starting to build out. Basically, where are we coming from? We have a massive downtrend in this stock. If I flip over to the weekly time frame, makes it easier to see pretty much a massive downtrend here, and what looks like and what appears to be a new base starting to form out. Now, as far as the length of time that these things take, obviously the wider the base you have, the better. And the reason being is because when this starts to move into stage 2, what you're going to run into is just various areas of resistance all through here, all through here, all through here. So what we really want to see is, a very wide base. In an ideal scenario, you've got this stock kind of moving like this. Finally, it puts that move out, and we start to see a move like this. Now, that's an ideal scenario. Doesn't always happen as textbook as we would like it to. So we have to kind of be looking at these things with an open mind and be prepared to, potentially get involved when we start to see those signs of the stage 2. And if it means we're a little early and we're taking some cuts on the way to looking for the big trade, well, that is part of the cost of doing business when it comes to being a trader. So BABA is one of the first ones we want to be keeping an eye on here. Basically, looking at the daily chart, you have this area of resistance right through here. So once this starts to move out, we may start to see some continued buying, a bit of a weekly reversal setting up here. We've got a nice base to work with coming from about February of this year. Now we're almost in July. And so a good amount of time behind this. Now, the one thing to keep in mind here is this is a very wide base. We've got this up here at 120 and this down here at 80. And so there is some inherent risk when you are trading something that is this wide. Definitely need to be keeping tighter stops. But this does look like it could start setting up favorably for swing traders and for more upside. I know there has been a lot of negative news around the China stocks, and they do tend to gap overnight in one way or another just based on some type of news. It's my opinion that after a move like this, a lot of that news is potentially starting to get baked into the price. And so that's just something to keep in mind. We are seeing some kind of big spikes in volume through here and through here without, making fresh lows. And so that is definitely something that is encouraging on this particular stock. Now, if we go ahead and move on, the other ones I had on the list, flip this back into the daily chart. We have JD, another China ADR. This one is not as clean, not nearly as clean. We are, again, the Chinese stocks with the overnight gaps can be a little daunting. You want to make sure that you are positioning into these things with proper size. But this is another one that is starting to show those kind of signs of basing. We do have a big high volume node right through here, it looks like. And so that can be encouraging as well for higher prices. High volume nodes are not necessarily support, but it does show a lot of interest at this particular price point when we look at it through time. And so that is of interest. Similarly to BABA, this one is very wide. I mean, we're talking about 50, price of 50 down here up into 65. So that's a very wide range. The one thing this one has going for it is that it is starting to tighten up a bit through here. And so we have these large moves within the range, and it's starting to tighten up just in this area, which can be a good sign for higher prices. Hopefully that messy drawing is making sense for you guys. But this is, generally speaking, I mean, again, it is a little messy. We do have to kind of be open-minded with this, but it is encouraging. Again, we do have volume in this as well, so that is a good sign. We also have PDD. Now, this one is definitely looking much better. This is, generally speaking, this is the type of action that I personally like to see. We've got the range down here, started to move up outside of that base or that range, and it was done on high volume. I'm using the terms base and range interchangeably when I describe this. Some folks are going to say those are two different things. For the sake of this example, I am using those terms interchangeably, so just a note there. Now, we do have that big volume on this push up, so this is a good one to start to look for. If I were considering new swing trades, I may be interested in PDD. Again, none of this is a recommendation to buy or anything like that. This is just purely educational content. And so we do have this little bit of resistance right through here at 65. Continuing to hold over this 65 area does increase the probability for, again, more upside. So this is definitely one of the better looking China stocks, in my opinion. Now, moving on from PDD, we have BEKE, very similar. This one, again, a very, very wide base. You've got all the volume being done pretty much right through here. Now, as this, we do still have a ways to go. We're at 18 here, but as we start to move outside of this 22 area, I'll call it 25 just to play it safe, pretty much have no volume right through here. That's what I like to call a volume void. And so as price starts to trade above 25, what you're going to see is really, with this volume void, probably an explosive move higher. That's what we've seen before with these things. So this is definitely one to be keeping an eye on. That is BEKE, another Chinese stock starting to show some signs of leadership. Again, market leader does not necessarily mean the biggest stock in the market. It does not necessarily mean the most profitable or anything like that. It's just what is performing well, right? And so that's how we like to think about it. Now, moving on from that, we have FUTO. This is Futo. Another very, very good looking one, already starting to show signs of that kind of stage 2, that little bit of markup. Again, just to recap here, we like to see it moving out of that accumulation base into that markup cycle. And so we do see some signs of that here. Again, you've got, just to recap, you've got the sideways base, a lot of volume being done here. And this one started back in December. And this is encouraging because November, December is right around the time that the broader market, SPY, S&P 500, QQQ, NASDAQ, things like that really started to roll over and show that topping pattern. And so while the indices are getting killed and in a bear market, we have Futo pretty much just trading sideways. Again, another good sign, and now starting to move up and outside of that base. And so that is Futo, another one I'll personally be watching for potential swing trade entry. Beyond that, we have Billy, not as clean, but just worth keeping an eye on just because the setup is so similar. A lot of the same characteristics as the prior Chinese. You can see that for yourself. Moving on, we have the EVs, NEO. This one is very interesting. Again, very wide base here. And so that is one thing that is a bit discouraging when we look at this. We're talking about, the prices up here are around 25. It's down into 12. And so this is massive, not textbook by any stretch of the imagination, but as far as the structure is actually concerned, we still have a wide sideways move here. The MAs, you can see on the chart, I believe this is the 21 and the 50, are declining. They start to flatten out. Now we have them moving higher. And so that kind of smooths out the trend for you so you can get a cleaner visualization of what's happening with this particular stock. That's NEO. XPEV, the other one we were looking at. This one has already started to take off. This has been pretty good to us for day trading in the Traders Think Tank, one that we have been definitely intraday trading. No swing exposure on this one at this time. But again, similar characteristics. You've got, that sideways base, a lot of volume being done down here as we could see from the volume profile. And then pretty much that kind of, again, that markup or that uptrend that we like to see as part of Wyckoff cycle. And as a bonus, it is being done on higher than average volume. And so, this is ideal. You want to see that volume when that stock is starting to move into that stage 2. And so this one looks really good. XPEV, from there we have LI. This one is leading its peers, definitely. I mean, we're almost at all-time highs. Everyone in this stock essentially is making money. So this thing is, this is not fresh into the stage 2 move. This is really already well on its way into, likely at least retesting those prior highs and potentially seeing new all-time highs. Again, the encouraging thing here is as we moved outside of all of this, the base here is not that clear. That's one thing I don't like, but what we do have is a bit of a series of lower highs here. Excuse the line, it's not exact. Just want to visualize, we've got a high here, high. Oops, that one is especially messy, but we have another high here. And so without the trend line, you can even visually see the structure is a downtrend. We have a series of lower highs. As this started to break, we really see an explosive move on much, much higher than average volume. That is going to be about 3x relative volume, 3x R vol. And so that's huge. This is one that you likely want to continue to pay attention to, especially as it starts to get into, closer to those highs. we could see some type of near-term consolidation pattern, maybe even a near-term a shallow pullback to establish some positioning. That's LI. We have LSIT up next. This is not a Chinese stock, I don't believe, but it kind of fits with the theme of the EVs, so I thought it was worthy to bring up here. Again, very similar setup. You've got the basing. We've got what looks like a low here on high volume. You can see those red bars indicating to us that R vol is high. Then you've got what could be a higher low right here. Once we start to break this, basically this zone right through here, this is likely going to see a pretty explosive move. And so that is one to be keeping an eye on into the coming weeks, if not this coming week, if they don't put that breakout in within the next few days. And then from there we have CHPT. This is the last one on the list, guys. Very similar to the LSIT. Again, not the biggest base, actually not even really any type of base here. A little too wide, not that textbook, but again, this is one we want to be watching for that kind of continued upside. If the rest of the EV sector does go, this could follow along. So there you have it. Those are the Chinese stocks showing some of the best swing setups across the entire market, in my opinion. And then we have a handful of EVs that are worth watching as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I could be reached via direct message in the think tank. If you want to see how we're actually trading some of these stocks, join us in the think tank. You'll have all the trade ideas posted in real time in the Traders Think Tank. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.